Dear students, welcome to session 3 of the chapter Typical Configuration of Computer System. In my previous session, I had explained about different components of computer system or motherboard. Different components of motherboard, they are processor, BIOS, CMOS, bus system, disk controller. Now in this we are going to discuss about the memory part of motherboard, as this already have learned in your first PUC in detail the types of memory system. So what is a memory? Computer memory is nothing but is a storage place. It is a storage space or a place to store information, data and instructions. Again, as all of you know that this memory is divided into two types. One is primary memory and secondary memory. And here under primary memory you are going to learn about RAM and ROM, and again under we are talking about hard disk or floppy disk, etc. So what is a memory unit in computer system? It is nothing but a storage place or a storage space to store data, information and instructions. And again it is memory divided into two parts, primary memory and secondary memory. This primary memory is nothing but your RAM and ROM, and as well as secondary memory is your hard disk as well as floppy disk. Now we look into that another types of memory system. Here we have internal memory of your computer system. Internal memory, they include registers. As well as cache memory. And it also includes primary memory. And what are registers? Registers are nothing but is a storage space to store data and instructions. Under the control of control unit. So what are registers? Registers are nothing but a memory system, a small memory, a temporary memory. This is a temporary memory. And these registers are made up of group of cells. So registers are a place temporary memory which store data and instructions temporarily. So next one is called cache memory. What is a cache memory? Again, it is also a high speed memory. Cache is a high speed memory. And it used to be placed between CPU and memory unit of computer system. So that cache memory, and normally this cache memory which stores the recently used data and instructions. So what is a cache memory? Cache memory is a high speed memory, and it will be placed between CPU and the memory system on the motherboard, and it used to store recently used data. So you might have experienced in your computer system, whenever if you opened a file first time, the first time the file is loaded from the computer hard disk, and once you close a particular file, the same file will be stored and inside this cache memory. So when you recall or when you open the same file once again, then the particular file will open or access from the cache memory, so that it can be much more faster in terms of few seconds. So this is a cache memory. It used to store recently used data, and here under cache memory there are three levels of cache: L1 cache, L2 cache, and L3 cache. So this is about cache memory. And primary memory, as already have told you, already have learned in first PUC in detail about RAM, ROM, SDRAM, SDROM, and DD or RAM, etc. So this is about your computer memory. Next concept in this chapter is power supply. Next we talk about power supply to your computer system, and all of you know that, and any electrical and electronic devices which needs power supply, continuous power supply for proper functioning, and if there is no power, you cannot work with this system. So what is a power supply? A computer system requires a continuous power supply to work with. So generally, normally when you talk about power supply, we are talking about AC power. AC power. And normally when you connect this CPU or your computer system, and we are connecting this to through a power cable, it is on rear side of your CPU. So the rear side of CPU, you are going to connect AC power. That is called the current or power comes from your electricity plug. So this is around 230 to 250 volts of power supply. So, and where the power cable you are connecting to the CPU, and you are directly connecting to SMPS. SMPS. So one type of power supply is SMPS, and another type of power supply is UPS. What is SMPS and UPS? These two are two types of power supply to your computer system. So normally, now look into that. What is SMPS? SMPS stands for switch mode power supply. It stands for switch mode power supply. So whenever this SMPS is nothing but a small metal box, and it will be, you can notice this on the back side or right side of your CPU, and it has a fan inside. So as soon as you on the computer, boot the computer, you notice that the fan start running. So it indicates that SMPS is, so we are getting a power supply through SMPS. So this is one other type of power supply, and in SMPS it provides power supply to the system continuously as long as the electricity is available. So what is the function of SMPS? As we are directly getting a 230 to 250 volts from the AC power or from the power plug or from electricity, it has to be converted or it has to be regulated through SMPS. So SMPS will regulate the main power supply from the AC and convert this to between 5 to 15 volts. So this much of power are necessary for the functioning of the computer or on the motherboard. So this is SMPS. SMPS stands for switch mode power supply. It provides a continuous power to the computer system, and AC and what the function of this is going to regulate or control this AC power and converts it into DC volt, direct converts of 5 to 15 volts. So this one. And when you are working with SMPS, if there is a sudden failure of electricity or sudden failure of power system, then your computer system is going to switch off. And once the computer is switched off all of a sudden or immediately, so there are chances of malfunctioning of computer, and there are problem with hardware, or maybe your software would have corrupted. So it is not advisable to off your computer system directly from the switch or from the plug point. So always it is a very good habit to, we have to shut down the system properly. So SMPS provides continuous supply. Main function is to convert AC power into DC power to between 5 to 15 volts, which are necessary for functioning of computer system. So next, if the sudden failure in the electricity, so your computer is going to switch off, so it leads to some other problems like hardware problem, or software would have deleted or corrupted, or the system may not work. So to avoid these type of damages to your computer system, better or it is advisable to go for another type of power supply, that is UPS. That is UPS. What is UPS? UPS stands for uninterrupted power supply. What is the meaning of this? This uninterrupted, as the name itself says, so this type of power supply or power system, it provides a continuous power to your computer system so that any damage can be avoided. So what is UPS? And here UPS generally is a device which runs on battery. So battery, you know that, to store the power. And here this UPS, there are two types of UPS. One is called online UPS, second one is called standby UPS system. So what is online UPS? And no doubt both of them are working on battery. System. And here in online UPS system, even though if there is a power supply, so this computer system, it gets continuous power through this battery or through UPS to your computer system. So here if at all, if any failures in electricity or power supply, so here system cannot be noticed it, because already these systems will be getting power supply from the battery of the UPS. So this is normally the online UPS will be used in some critical situations where we require data, where we talk about data processing system in critical data processing system, where we cannot afford to off the computer system at any point in time if we are expecting this to work continuous 24/7 system. So this online UPS, it based again this battery, this computer system, it gets its power directly from the battery even though the power is available. So and now look into another type of UPS is a standby UPS. This standby UPS again runs on the battery, but What is the difference between these two? Here, as long as the power is there, the computer system, it gets the power through this to computer system. But in case of power failure, or in case of sudden power failure, electricity, so it's going to this UPS, it's going to switch the mode, or it's going to UPS mode, and then starts providing supply to your computer system. So in that way, here we can make out the difference of in time, fraction of seconds. There will be a delay in fraction of seconds to switch over from normal to battery mode or to UPS mode. So if you observe the difference between these two, the difference only in time delay here. So sometimes what's the drawback of this standby UPS systems? So once if there is sudden failure in the power system, there are chances of this delay may be still delayed, so that by the time your computer system is going to switch off, again is going to damage the data as well as hardware. So this is about power supply to your computer system. So just I repeat, power supply, there are two types of power supply. One is SMPS, second one is UPS. SMPS, it provides supply to the computer system as long as the electricity is available. And if we talk about UPS, when you talk about UPS, it provides continuous power supply without any interruption. That's why it's called as UPS, uninterrupted power supply. So it is advisable for everyone, every computer users, to make use of this UPS or power supply effectively. So dear students, this ends the chapter 1, typical configuration of computer system, and just I will summarize or just will recall what you have learned this chapter from the beginning, from session 1. And here first we have started the chapter with block diagram of computer, with block diagram of a computer system. There we have learned how computer works. Then we have discussed about motherboard. What is a motherboard? Definition. And again, types of motherboard. They are XT, AT, baby AT, and ATX motherboard. Then components of motherboard. Components of motherboard, that is what we have discussed in session 3. And components, we talked about processor, slots, CMOS, and disk drives, and other components. And apart from that, computer memory system, then power supply to your computer system. So in block diagram we have learned how computer works with the block diagram by looking at the block diagram of computer system. Then we have learned about what is a motherboard. It is a PCB or printed circuit board where all electronic components are mounted on it. So then we talk about then we have discussed about types of motherboard. They are XT, AT, baby AT, and ATX motherboard. All these are different motherboard, or we can differentiate with the technology of the computer system. Next we talked about what is components of motherboard. They are processor, there is a brain of computer, the main part of computers. Slots or ports, they are nothing but a small openings where we connect different hardware devices, and so that all these which increase the capabilities or capacity of our or performance of computer system. Next we have about CMOS and BIOS. CMOS is nothing but a small chip which supports, which used to store a small information like date, system date, system time, and other parameters. BIOS, already we had discussed. BIOS is nothing but basic input output system. It is a small memory or a chip. It used to store informations of hardware settings necessary for proper functioning of motherboard or hardware system. Next we have discussed about memory, two types of memory, internal and external memory, or primary memory and secondary memory. Under that I have told you about registers. What are registers? Registers are nothing but a small memory to store data and information. So these registers work under the control of control unit. Then upon a cache memory, in cache memory it is again a high speed memory. It will be stored on the motherboard between CPU and the RAM, so that this cache memory store the recently used or available information in the memory, so that it's as compared to this first time when you open any of the file, it will be loaded from the computer hard disk, and second time when you open the same file, it will be accessed through a cache memory. Next we had discussed about power supply. This is the main thing, because if we want a computer to work properly, we are expecting, or we need to have a continuous power supply. There are two types of power supply here. One is through SMPS, and second one is through UPS. SMPS is a switch mode power supply which provides a continuous supply to the computer system, and the main function of SMPS is to convert AC power, what normally we get from through our electricity or through plug point is around 230 to 250 volts. So it has to be regulated or controlled by SMPS, so it converts to DC power between 5 to 15 volts. So those volts are necessary, sufficient to work with the computer system. Next, our UPS, uninterrupted power supply. It is advisable for every computer user to make use of this UPS system, so that it provides continuous power supply in spite of any sudden or immediate power failure in the computer system, so that any damage related to hardware and software can be avoided. Students, hope you have learned few technical terms or few hardware components of inside the CPU of computer system. Thank you very much.